Hey guys, welcome back to whatever this is, and on today's episode, this is coming in the heels well after the fact of the Nintendo Direct that just passed. That had a lot of great announcements in it. Super Mario Wonder, a couple other games, but the big one I want to talk about would be Mario RPG. And with that, I want to talk about how we're getting to the best point in any console's life cycle. So when it comes to the Switch, we're kind of in its last 2 years-ish. I have no doubt in my mind there is a new hardware probably coming out next year, if not, then the following year for sure. I don't need a rumor for that. Like, I worked at a game store for years. Like, you just kind of see the cycles. And one of the best parts is, as a console cycle comes to an end, is when you get to see some of the coolest stuff come out on it. We're past the point where Bayonetta 3 was announced, took forever, and it came out. We've just had Tears of the Kingdom come out. Fantastic. We are now at the point where developers really understand the hardware of this thing, even though it already creaks to no end. You will see some cool stuff. And the fact they're remaking, Mario RPG, like, dream game that I just never thought would have happened. I love its, like, squishy art style, like, everybody's super deformed. It's super cool. I would have loved it to look more claymation, but that's just more of a weird personal preference on my part. It doesn't actually have to exist in that manner. And as we hit this tail end, I think you're just going to see cooler and cooler things. And I have no doubt in my mind, with this console coming to an end, they're going to look for ways to extend the life. One is looking at Luigi's Mansion that they just announced for this console for whatever reason. And because of that, you are also probably going to see a couple other ports. You will probably see that long rumored Legend of Zelda collection of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Because I don't see why that gets trapped on that console, because it would kind of be a death nail for it. For all the versions of games that came out on it that's like still locked on there. I would love to see that just get thrown onto the Switch, because then you could just play it, wherever. And, like, that's it. That would kind of kill the Wii U collector market, maybe? That's a loaded question, but I could see it happening. And I could see that rumored Fire Emblem Path of Radiance from the GameCube being ported. Like, I know half of this episode is just going to be me, like, wishing for these weird games to just fill time for Nintendo to get to their next machine. Because we're getting the Pikmin 4, we're getting the Pikmin 1, 2, which those are both getting physical versions. And we will see where this console takes us in its, like, last couple years, because you're gonna see some of the most interesting things right at the end of the console. Now, note that I didn't say good. I'm gonna say interesting, because that's what the life cycle of the end of every console slowly becomes. Look at what the Dreamcast was. That whole console was an ending, and it was just the most wonderful pile of interesting games. Even if they weren't necessarily good, even though a good chunk of them were, even if they weren't necessarily good, they were interesting. Look at the PS2, like, nearing its, like, kind of twilight years, even though it was really extended due to the PSP. But you got the Yakuza games, like, right at the end of that. You got Final Fantasy XII right at the end of it. The PS3, The Last of Us, right at the end of it. The GameCube, Chibi Robo, Twilight Princess, right at the end of it. Look at this console's beginning. A Wii U game, Breath of the Wild, right at the end of it. N64, Resident Evil 2, interesting. Maybe not everyone's favorite version. It's my favorite version, but it's not everyone's favorite version. And that's what I was trying to get at, is like, what they will do right at the tail end of a console is some of the best stuff. Even if it's not the best stuff, it's just some of the most interesting things in a console's life. And Shantae on the Game Boy Color, that was another one. Like, these end-of-life console games are phenomenal. Game Boy Advance had Final Fantasy VI. I know that really wasn't the last game, but that was, like, the last game that came out where, like, I even remotely paid attention to it. You had the Donkey Kong Country games kind of come out, started mid and finished, like, right at the, like, close to the end of that console, because the DS was out. When the DS was ending, that had some really bonkers out there games, but then again, that whole console was just kind of bonkers. It really shouldn't have worked, and it blew the PSP right out of the water. PSP had some really cool RPGs right at the end. Like, when you get to the end, any game that was like in long development hell or was like announced way too early start to come out, and it gets really good and it gets really interesting. I'm excited for these last 2 years. That's all this video's about. This isn't my longest video on the planet, and it's not going to be. I just wanted to kind of shoot that out there, put that out there, and like get people talking. Please let me know down below, like, if you can remember like any like late console games that clearly just blew the console out of the water or just did something really neat. Let me know down below. And that's it for this week's episode, guys. Take care. Have a good one.